Today we're in our part 3 of our series called God with Us. And we've been talking about, the presence of God in the different seasons of our life. The first week we talked about the presence of God in the valleys. We learned kind of like a key principle that, we enjoy God on the mountaintop, but we really experience Him in an intimate way when we are in the valleys. We also learned last week that we talked about God in the wilderness, and we learned the principle that our deepest need becomes a gift to us when it drives us to depend on God. So that was kind of like a neat thing that I really thought that was good for us to learn. And today what I want to do is talk about God in the presence of a storm. Back in the day, back before, I used to have my own pastor as well. He used to tell us something that kind of like discouraged me because I was a young believer at that time. And I remember that he would say, you're either coming out of a storm, you're in the middle of a storm, or you've got a storm coming around the corner, he would say. And I'd be like, really? That's like your encouraging words for us? But, in other words, life gets difficult. And it kind of is true, life gets difficult. And it might not be encouraging to hear it, but it's true, It seems like we're either, coming out of a difficult time, or we're right in the middle of a difficult time, or we've got like something hard coming just around the corner. Like things are kind of smooth sailing, like we call it, and then we're like, whoa, something's gonna happen, you know it, right? So, and so where is God in the middle of the storm? Is God with us in the storm? Maybe some of you right now are in the middle of a storm. You might be in the middle of a storm right now, and you might be thinking, well, I wish I could get through the storm divorce, or I wish I could get through this storm of depression, or I can get through this storm of a financial storm that I'm in. Maybe I wish I could get through this relational storm, whatever the storm is that you're involved in. Sometimes we find ourselves in a real situation where we feel like we just want the storm to go away. We don't want to be in the middle of the storm. So what do you do when you're in the middle of the storm? Unfortunately, a lot of people, we tend to blame God when we're in the middle of a storm, right? We try to, think, we question, well, where's God here? Why did He let this happen? Why did He let me come into this storm? Why isn't He doing anything? Or is He even with me during the storm? So, our key thought today that I didn't make a note sheet today, but I want you guys, if you have something to write on, you can write it down. Never allow the presence of a storm to cause you to doubt the presence of God. Never allow the presence of a storm, never allow the presence of things that are happening that are hard in your life, or even hurtful things, to make you doubt that God's presence is with you. And I want to take a look at Acts 27, and we're going to spend most of the time there today. And we're going to be looking at some men who were on a boat in the middle of a pretty massive, crazy storm. And the storm was going on for several days, and the crew they were so terrified they actually started throwing overboard their cargo because they wanted to make the ship lighter. They wanted to make sure that they didn't fall overboard. And so they really believed that this storm was going to take them down. They were going to die during this storm. This was it. They weren't going to survive the storm. So we're going to pick up the story in Acts 27:20, and it says, when neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, the storm continued raging. I wonder how many of you would use that same phrase for something that maybe you're going through right now, for something that's happening in your life. It just won't stop. It just keeps on raging. It just won't stop. The storm continued raging, it says, and then they said, we finally gave up all hope of being saved. These men, finally, it says that they gave up hope of being saved. The phrase really gets to me because I talk to a lot of people have just given up hope of anything. They've given up all hope. They just there's no way. They're like, there's no way my marriage is going to make it through this. There's no way I'll ever climb out of this financial debt. There's no way I'm going to ever beat this cancer. There's no way that I'm not going to be alone the rest of my life. We're never ever going to be able to conceive a child. Well, after what's happened, I'm never going to be able to afford going to college now. After what happened, they gave up all hope. And the storm continued to rage, the Bible says, and they gave up all hope. Verse 21 says, after they had gone a long time without food, Paul, the Apostle Paul, he stood up before them and said, men, you should have taken my advice and not to sail from Crete. Now, don't you just want to hit Paul when he says that? Paul, men, you should have taken my advice. Then you would have spared yourself this damage and loss. Paul was just a regular guy. He was, he was as spiritual as he was. He wasn't above doing what so many of us love to do, right? When, that's when we're right. We want to tell people, I told you so, right? If you had just listened to me, if you had taken my advice, you wouldn't be in the middle of this storm. Well, why were they in the storm? Why were these men in the storm? Well, it seems that they were in the storm because they made a bad judgment call, right? They made a bad decision. They decided to, go out in the ocean when it was bad weather. And so it was their fault that they were in that storm. So have you ever noticed that sometimes, not in this church, of course, but, so many people, they love to blame the devil for everything, right? It's the devil's fault, the devil's fault. He did this, he made me do this, right? But no, sometimes it's not the devil's fault. Sometimes it's our own fault because we make bad choices. We just do make bad choices. Sometimes you're in the middle of the storm because you just spent too much money, because your emotions got the best of you, you said something that you shouldn't have said, right? Sometimes you're in the middle of the storm because you procrastinated and you put something off that was really important. It's not the devil's fault that you didn't pass your final exam. It's not. It's your fault for staying up all night watching Office or Friends and you didn't study. That's basically it. Sometimes you're in the storm because everybody else told you not to date him. Your mama told you not to date him. Your daddy told you not to date him. Your pastor told you not to date him. Your best friend said not to date him. The fortune cookie told you not to date him. But here you were, you were like, no, you argued back. But he has so much potential. He's got so much potential. Yeah, he's got potential to ruin your life. But you didn't listen, and now you're in the storm. Sometimes you're in the middle of the storm because it's your own fault. And maybe that's why they gave up hope, because they knew that they were there because of their own fault. And I don't know about you, but it's easier for me to believe that God can come and rescue me and take me out of the storm when he didn't put me there. When he put me there or somebody else did, but not when it's my own fault. When it's my own fault, I feel like I don't deserve to be rescued by God. When I made a mistake, when I put my foot in it, I feel like I don't have the right to ask God to help me or to rescue me because I don't deserve it. And so I lose all hope. And the storm continued to rage, and they gave up all hope. Now, there's probably people on that boat that really didn't, it wasn't their fault. I don't know how big the crew was, but I'm sure there was some men that when Paul said, you shouldn't sail out right now, they probably said, yeah, Paul's probably right. Paul, it's right. Probably shouldn't. There's a few men that probably said, yeah, I'm with Paul. We shouldn't go. But the captain is the one that decides what to do on the boat, I'm assuming. And so they had to go along with it. And so they were there, not by their own doing. They were there, and it wasn't their fault. But they were still in the middle of that same storm. Now, how many of you have ever been in the middle of a storm, and it wasn't your doing, it wasn't your bad decision, it was just somebody else's, and there you are in that boat with them, and you're in that storm as well. Sometimes as kids, your parents, they're divorcing, and you're in the middle of the storm that wasn't your fault. Your company made all sorts of bad decisions, and they ended up having to downsize, and guess what? You're a casualty of it. And you're in that storm, and it wasn't your fault. You trusted somebody, they gave you their word, and then they didn't do what they said they would do. And so now you're in the storm that's not of your own fault. Whatever the case may be, whatever, was that happened, you're in the middle of a storm and somebody else was the one that made the decisions, or even if it was you, you're still in the middle, and it's easy to give up hope. The storm continued to rage, the Bible says, and he gave up all hope. Remember, never let the presence of a storm cause you to doubt the presence of God. And is what Paul says in verse 22. He says, but now I urge you to keep your courage. So that I want to say to all of you guys here this morning, maybe you need to hear this. Keep your courage. Keep your courage, gentlemen. Keep your faith, ladies. You know, the storm is not going to take you down. He says, keep your courage because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. Then in verse 23, he says, last night an angel of God to whom I belong and whom I serve stood beside me. How amazing is that? He says it was an angel of God that was standing right beside him. An angel of God. You may not be aware, but there's angels even in this room right now. I really believe with all my heart that what we see with our physical eyes is not all there is. There is a spiritual realm of angels that are around us all the time, right? And so, you know, the spiritual world goes beyond what we can even see. And so we do have no idea how God is always protecting us and taking care of us, right? Imagine if you're in the middle of the storm and the presence of God is with you at that very, very moment, right? It just changes how you see things. You know, when if he could be with you God could be with you in a form of an angel, in his presence, in his spirit. If you're a follower of Jesus, you know, his spirit dwells inside of you. And he's hearing our prayers all the time, always comforting us when we're hurting. He's directing us when we're lost. So we have no idea of all the different ways that God is always present in the storm. Paul says, an angel of the Lord stood beside me in the middle of this storm. Never let the presence of a storm make you doubt that the presence of God is with you. So it's all about who's beside you, who's with you. You know, when you realize that God is with you, it changes your posture. It changes like how your mood and how it builds your faith. Like when I was in, I think I was in ninth grade, which is just starting high school. And there was this girl that was, I think she was a junior in high school, and she had this idea that I was trying to steal her ex-boyfriend, imagine that. And I was like, first of all, her ex-boyfriend was ugly, one. Two, I wasn't even allowed to date, so I couldn't steal anybody's boyfriend, right? Or ex-boyfriend. But she had this idea in her mind, and so she just had it out for me because of that. And so she sent out like her, you know, I guess her girls, their little posse, to come after me like any chance they had. You know, they would come and try to like beat me up and just kind of trip me in the hall or up the stairs, you know, just always trying to do stuff that, you know, just to, you know, intimidate me, because she was always, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you. And, you know, I would always find a way to get around, get a ride home, whatever, so I wouldn't have to like face her, because she was big. You know, she was like 3 years, you know, higher than I was, and she was a big girl, and she looked like she was like a mean girl too. I was like, no wonder you got a boyfriend. But so one day, you know, she came up to us, but I was with some friends that were a little older than I was too, and they happened to be like in a gang. So she kind of got I told the girl that the girl was bothering me, and one of the two of the girls went over there and told her something. I don't know what it was, but after that, every time she'd see me, she'd just kind of go around and stuff, and I was like, yeah, what's up with this, you know? But, you know, it just means it's the difference in somebody else is standing by you and, you know, kind of like with you. You feel a little bit stronger, you feel more confident, and I'm not picking fights, people, but I'm just saying, you know, kind of like a little bit of a, you know, contrast. But anyway, so when you recognize that in the storm, when you're in trouble, when you're hurting, when you're, you know, feeling like there's nobody around, there really is somebody with you. God's presence is always with you. The Lord is right by you. He's with you, and He's strengthening you, and He changes how you are at the storm. It really, really does. It's all about who's in the boat in the middle of the storm. In fact, the New Testament is a powerful story about the disciples being in a different kind of boat, and is in a different storm. What's funny about this story is that Jesus was actually in the boat with them. He was just under the boat, you know, underneath the boat in the bottom part, and he was asleep, the Bible says. And the disciples did what so many of us will do in the middle of a storm. We just start freaking out. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. As a matter of fact, exact thing happened to me last week. We were driving out to go do something, and we hit like really bad fog. And we were right in the middle, and there's like no visibility whatsoever. And it was just a really, and I had a really bad car accident like a long time ago. and it was some type of the same situation. So it just took me right back to that, and I just started like really like losing it. I was just like, you know, I was already like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a heart attack. You know, it was gonna happen. I was just really panic attack, big time. My husband was trying to drive and just like not look at me because I know he was probably going, oh my God, what's wrong with her? I just went into panic mode, like really bad. And then I snapped out of it. I started like, I put my phone on, I put music on, I started praying, and it made a difference for me at that moment. But it's like how easy we can go into panic when we're in a situation where we get, you know, we're afraid. But when we don't have to be that way, we can always, you know, remember that God is with us. You know, He's like, He can command the wind, He can command the fog and all that stuff, right? So I mean, it's just, you know, but we freak out. We start freaking out. They freaked out in the boat there. It's not fair, you know, we're gonna die. We're Jesus, where are you? Why are you sleeping? Why don't you care? Aren't you gonna do anything? You're just laying there sleeping, snoring, and we're just over here all scared, and we're gonna die, right? We're gonna die, you know? And so Jesus comes on board. He comes up, and he probably woke him up from all the screaming, and he comes up, and he, you know, he says, why are you so afraid? You have little faith. And then Jesus just says, peace, be still. And there was peace. The wind stopped, you know, the storm just, everything just stopped. It was peace, right? And the disciples experienced peace. They experienced peace because Jesus was on the boat with them. You know, real peace is not found in the absence of a storm. Real peace is found in the presence of Jesus. And real peace isn't found in a trouble-free life, because you're never going to have trouble-free life. You might as well, you know, that's just bad theology for you to think that you're not, oh, now I'm not going to have any problems. I'm not going to have any trouble. That's not true at all. And Jesus never promised us that we wouldn't have. Matter of fact, He said in John 16:33, in this world you will have trouble. You will. He's saying, this is my word here. He's saying to us, you will have trouble. Yeah. It says, but take heart. I have overcome this world. You don't have to be afraid, because I am with you. That's what He's telling us. Real peace is not found in the absence of trouble. Real peace is found in the presence of Jesus. He is right with me. Jesus never leaves me, and He will never forsake me. That's what we have to tell ourselves whenever we start feeling that fear, right? And then back in verse 23, I want you to see what Paul said. He said, last night an angel of God, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood beside me and said, do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. In other words, you can't go down with this battle, Paul, because God has more battles for you to fight. Now please listen to this. You can't go down in this battle because God has more for you to do. He's not finished with you yet. If you're not dead, you're not done. If you're not dead, you're not done. God has more people for you to love. He has more opportunities for you to serve. God has more times that He's calling you to be a blessing to other people. You're not going down in this storm. You're not. The ship may go down, but the storm will not take you out. In fact, God's going to use what you learn from this storm to prepare you to help others get through their storms. I love this about God. He does this all the time. There's a purpose through this storm. There's a purpose in this storm you're going through. You know, God is allowing this storm in your life because there is a purpose for it. There's something good's going to come out of it. The storm didn't surprise God. Whatever storm you're in right now, it didn't surprise God. It didn't surprise God that the disciples went out anyways, sailed anyways, and they got into this. He wasn't surprised by that at all. He wasn't surprised by that. We are surprised. I don't know how we're always surprised when bad stuff happens to us, but we are. But God isn't surprised. God is not. And He's doing something in each one of us every time we are in the storm. He is speaking to you. He is strengthening you. He is deepening your roots in Him. And He'll use what you learn in your storm to help somebody else to get through theirs, right? One day you're going to say, I've been through a storm like that. You know, we survived unfaithfulness in our marriage, so you can survive it in yours as well. God can help you through it. We've overcome financial hardship. We did what was right. We climbed out of debt. you can climb out of that wall. You can help that person get through that, right? You can say, you know, I used to be in bondage to this or to that, and God set me free, and He can set you free as well. Suddenly you start to become an evangelist for the presence of God, who never leaves you in the middle of a storm. God is doing something inside of you. He's working inside each one of us every time that we are going through a storm. You don't always know. You don't always know it when you're in the storm, what God is doing. You really don't. Sometimes you don't. And you just want to get to the other side. But when you do get to the other side of the storm, and you're safe on the shore, you often look back and say, whoa, I wouldn't want to go through that again. And I wouldn't want anybody else to go through that, but I wouldn't trade that. Because there's so much that I've gone, the intimacy that I've had with God through this storm, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't trade it for anything. The spiritual depth, the character that I build, the trust that I build with God, it's a result of this being in this storm with God. Not alone. It's the result of being in the storm with God. Verse 25 says, so keep up your courage, men. Keep up your faith, ladies. Keep your faith in God. Keep up your courage, he says. For I have faith in God that it will happen just as He told me. I have faith in God that it will happen, Paul says. My faith is not what I see. My faith is what God says. I have faith in God that what He says will come to pass. So when we read His word, this is His word. And when we read this and we trust it, we know that what He says will come to pass. I have faith in God that it will happen. My faith is not in the boat. My faith is in the one that commands the boat, right? My faith is not in the ship. My faith is in the one who created the trees that made the ship. I have faith in my God that will see me through, that He will be my deliverer, that He will provide what I need, the God that will bring healing to me, that in the middle of the storm I will experience His peace. I have faith in God that it will happen. So here's the bottom line. You can't control when a storm is going to blow up. It's going to come. Because it happens just sometimes when you don't even expect it. You can't control how severe the storm is. You can't control that. You can't control that at all. You can't control how long the storm lasts either. You can't control what people say about you. You can't control what people do to you. But you can control what you believe, and you can control where you put your faith. My faith is in the one who created the wind and the waves. My faith is in God. I have faith in God that He says that what He says will come to pass. So when He says will happen, who is God? The psalmist in Psalm 46:1-3 says, God is our shelter. In the middle of a storm, He is our hiding place. He is our safety. He is our strength. He is always ready to help in times of trouble. Why? Because He's with us by our side. He's always with us. Who is He? He is Emmanuel, God with us. And because He's with us, we don't have to be afraid. Even if the earth is shaken and the mountains fall into the ocean. Even if the seas roar and rage and the hills are shaken by violence. We can say it this way, even if I lose my job, even if my relationship does fall apart, even if the economy gets shaky, I still won't be afraid because He is with me. He never leaves me. He never leaves you. He is what I need, and He is my safety because He is my comforter. True peace is found in the presence of Emmanuel, God with us. My faith is not in what I see. My faith is in what God does. And God says, it will happen. The storm will not take you down. Be at peace. God is with you. Pray with me this morning.